Welcome to No Buts About It. We have a ton to talk about right now. It is Super Bowl weekend. We have Stan, we have Chus, and we have the countdown. I don't know why when it started recording, it kind of took me by shock. So that's why that first part kind of made no sense. But yeah, we have Stan the Jet fan here in his house in Connecticut. We have Chus in his basement in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and I am here in my dining room in Indiana. I am Josh Butts. This is No Buts About It. First off, there's been a ton of news this weekend. So much so that I am not even sure that the Super Bowl is the biggest headline anymore. But we're going to talk about that still. But first, Cooper Kupp. Stan put out a video. I don't know if that was Thursday, Wednesday, when that was. But he discussed which teams he thought were best for Cooper Kupp, which teams the Rams should look at trading him to. And interestingly enough, he specifically said he didn't think the Steelers would be a good fit for. That was a team he said by name. Now, Chus, you have been saying we need Cooper Kupp. We want Cooper Kupp in Pittsburgh. So, fight. Give me a reason. Go.
Well, I don't really
Rumble style.
I was gonna say there really isn't like a debate style. I feel like to it. I feel like the idea that Stan is saying is that he doesn't think that Cooper Kupp's a good fit for Pittsburgh, and that may be true. However, I just want him in Pittsburgh because we need a wide receiver, and I wouldn't be surprised if the Steelers try to go for him because they need a wide receiver. I mean, we have George Pickens, yes, but if you draft a wide receiver, you're going to deal with not so mature veteran George Pickens dealing with a rookie at wide receiver number 2. I think you need some sort of veteran presence in there. And so getting Cooper Kupp, I think, would help. And a lot of the mock drafts are having the Steelers draft wide receivers in the first round, which honestly, I'm not terribly upset by. But at that point, if you were to get Cooper Kupp and then 2 wide receivers being George Pickens and then whoever you end up drafting being a wide receiver as well in the first round, I think it would be beneficial to, like I said, have that veteran presence because you'll have 3. Or you want to trade George Pickens away or keep both Pickens and Cooper Kupp, that would be fine too. The reason I'm so adamant about Cooper Kupp for the Steelers, and maybe Stan, you have somebody better in mind for us, is I just don't think there's a lot of wide receivers that we could probably go for that would probably make sense, that either are on the trading block or that are considering to be moved. Because, like, for example, we can't. I know T. Higgins' contract is coming up here, but I don't think the Steelers are going to be able to make any type of move with him because he came from Cincinnati. And maybe when he hits free agent market sometime, then maybe. But even then, it's like, does T. Higgins make sense in Pittsburgh? I don't know. But I just feel like Cooper Kupp with his veteran presence would probably make sense if they're really as set on keeping George Pickens as that wide receiver 1 that they were talking about before this season started. Because they said that when George Pickens' contract was coming up, they said that George Pickens would be looked at as like a big asset to the team. So granted, I don't think he's going to stay here regardless of what they offer him, but maybe Kupp can help him.
Yeah, and to start off, I don't think any of us would disagree with the idea that the Steelers are not really in a Super Bowl window right now. So one thing I was looking at with Kupp is I was looking at teams where he can, well, one, they could fit him onto the roster, but he wouldn't be their number 1 option, and he can make some sort of deep playoff run because he still is that caliber player. The reason I don't want him as a number 1 option or the only, one of a number 1 type option on the team is because he's likely to get injured. He'll probably have 1 or 2 injuries, right, at that age, and because of his player profile, he will most likely get injured at some point. For the Steelers, he would be their number 1 option, in my opinion. And once he gets injured, what are you going to do to fix that offense? So I think for the Steelers, I would rather go with 2 or 3 younger players. And in terms of free agency, there's not really any great fits, at least off the top of my head, but just building up through the draft for this team. And as we've talked about towards the end of last season, the Steelers, I think you would agree with this, need to look into rebuilding. They have to look towards the future. At one point, you were saying, forget about the playoffs. Who cares about making the playoffs? Let's try to rebuild this team. So to me, Cooper Kupp is an option to get you guys to go to the playoffs again, but I don't think he adds anything in terms of making a real Super Bowl run, at least when you don't have a quarterback.
See, and that's something I would agree on because I don't care about like making playoffs, and I even said that. But the way that the Steelers like to operate is they like to make playoffs anyway. So I figured if they're just going to keep trying to push for playoffs every single year and then try to trade for Matt Stafford, you might, because I mean apparently we're really high linked in betting odds for Matt Stafford now too because we're not re-signing Russell Wilson. Theoretically, rumors speculating this. I figured then why not Cooper Kupp? You know, I think, and I agree with the statement, and I think that it kind of opens up the idea that yeah, I think we should probably get a couple younger guys in there. I know Pickens isn't probably going to stick around. You know what? Dump him to the Raiders. Dump him, get a second round pick. Have the Raiders deal with him, have somebody else deal with him, and then just draft somebody else. And get some younger guys in there because the wide receiver core that we have right now is just really not that solid regardless. So I figured if the Steelers were going to try to continue their playoff push of trying to make playoffs every single year or getting that 9-8 record that they really like to get with Mike Tomlin, then I figured, well, assuming that we have Justin Fields, you could probably have Justin Fields throwing to Cooper Kupp and George Pickens, and you'd probably finish with a 9-8 record, even if Cooper Kupp misses 5 weeks or so. And if you have like a somebody that you can actually rely on as a wide receiver 3, it might be helpful for the wide receiver core. I don't think it'll help. I mean, there's a lot of players that I think that there should be a lot of moves going on with the Steelers coming up this offseason, but it remains to be seen what they're actually going to do because I don't know. I don't trust the Steelers right now.
I actually didn't see those Stafford links. That opens up a lot to me because, in my opinion, the Steelers are like 3 pieces on offense away from being able to make a run. Their defense is stellar, and even as those guys age out, you still have some young guys who can fill in. So you have that great defense. You've had a great defensive identity, even in the years where your defense has been, on a down year. Mike Tomlin has really been able to keep that side of the ball at least looking fresh year in year out. So if I'm looking at the Steelers and you do get a Stafford or a Darnold, Cooper Kupp, I think has a lot of value in bringing you guys some amount of a push to a Super Bowl or at least a deep playoff push.
Right. And the thing is like I want to before anybody like starts yelling at me and stuff like that, the Matt Stafford thing isn't as like apparent as like a Cooper Kupp right now where they're like openly talking about it. But Matt Stafford has been reportedly frustrated with the idea of Cooper Kupp being moved and has been open to the idea of being traded, which puts Pittsburgh, because of the Russell Wilson beef that's going on with Arthur Smith and stuff like that. The idea that he's not going to get re-signed makes the Steelers a strong link once again to Matt Stafford, especially if Justin Fields hits the open market because they really haven't talked about Justin Fields all that much. So there's a chance we just don't have either quarterback, which would be kind of insane to me that you don't have, you're just kind of hoping for the best in free agency. But yeah, I mean, it definitely could help us if one of them came here, like you said, a Darnold or Matt Stafford or something like that, and having Cooper Kupp on there. But right now it's just kind of like all uncertainty. And I do like Cooper Kupp. I like his play style. I always have. The injuries have always been kind of a scare for me. And the reason, as I mentioned, that I'd push for it is just because I know that they like to make playoffs. I still, as you mentioned, would rather tank for a couple seasons and get some like Jaden Daniels type players and, hopefully rebuild from the bottom up. Because I don't think, unless you really are selling, unless you're really selling the idea of the defense, which I think they are because they're trying to get TJ Watt that ring. I mean, I think you do have to fill up those pieces then at that point. And I think that Kupp could definitely help. But obviously, I'm still worried about that age and the injury factor to it as well, especially if some of these wide receivers don't hit the market.
Let's say you get Kupp and you get either Darnold or Stafford. What's your ceiling?
Well, who's our running back?
Yeah, I was about to say Najee might not even be there next year.
Because I think the one thing that I've kind of noticed over the last couple of years is also my dog is like going ferocious. There must be a delivery going on. I think the thing is when it comes, the thing I've noticed over the last couple of years, and like Kansas City aside, running backs are like a big key part of the offense nowadays in teams. And I feel like if you have a running back, it changes your entire offensive production. And we've seen that with the Eagles. This Eagles team, with just adding somebody with the talent and the skill set of Saquon Barkley, this team looks like a literal powerhouse going into the Super Bowl this Sunday compared to 2 years ago where it was like, okay, yeah, this Eagles team is good, but like they lack that running back capacity. And the reason that I bring up the running back thing is Najee Harris, despite having multiple 1,000-yard seasons, is like averaging like 4 yards a carry. And if you watch the games, everyone kind of agrees that it's kind of been an underwhelming 1,000 yard season, just because like they pitch it to him. He'll try to do like he'll try to do a wheel route. He'll get, hit -2 yards. We need a running back that's consistently going to get us like 4 or 5 yards up the midfield, or like, even if you get stuffed, you're going to get those 6 or 7 yards back in the next drive or in the next, set of downs. And if you have somebody like Najee in the backfield, or you have somebody like, no offense to Jalen Warren, I think he's a great wide receiver too, but if you have him as a wide receiver, or not a wide receiver, if you have him as a running back one, rather than a running back two, I don't know if he would even be able to get those yards, because eventually, he's elusive and he has like that kind of like smaller Eckler style to him where he can do it all. I just don't know if it would be enough. So it would kind of depend on what we would have as a running back. But if we had a decent running back, I would hopefully put us at 11-6. 11-6 would be nice. 12-5 would also be kind of nice, especially if our defense stays healthy. The one thing about the defense is that's been similar over the last couple of years that I haven't seen really change much with Arthur Smith is trying to keep the defense off the field. It looked like they were trying to do that at the beginning of the season by like running these like dumb plays. Oh, it's 3rd and goal, and we should try to score a touchdown, but let's run a halfback dive with Cordell Patterson for -1 yards. Why did we do that? Oh, just to run the clock even more, set up this 30 or this 28-yard field goal against Atlanta. Just keep the defense off the field, because the defense has been consistently on the field for a lot of these past years with like the Kenny Pickett era and all of these different things, and it's been a struggle for the defense. It's been straining them, and if you keep the defense healthy, this defense can actually live up to that top 5 defense that they or this supposed top 5 defense that they are. So if you have an offense that can just run the ball, you have somebody like a Saquon Barkley, or even somebody that's a little worse than Saquon Barkley, because Saquon's in a league of his own. If you have somebody that can just run up the field and and get you a couple first downs on his own, like, that's very helpful. And we don't have that in Pittsburgh, in my opinion. So it really depends.
I also want to mention, if you bring in Matt Stafford and Cooper Kupp, they're both coming from the LA Rams, both coming from a Sean McVay style offense, obviously. And Cooper Kupp has only known that offense. With Matt Stafford, you can say, okay, he was with the Lions. He's known all different types of offense. But Cooper Kupp has really only played in a Sean McVay offense.
Right.
And Sean McVay offenses, not necessarily as heavily as some teams, but they definitely utilize the running back. If you go back to some of their most successful seasons, the 2021 Super Bowl, obviously, was probably their most successful season. Their running backs at the time were Darrell Henderson Jr. and Sony Michel. Darrell Henderson Jr. had 688 yards. Sony Michel had 845 yards.
Good split.
Henderson, that was a career high for him. Sony Michel, that was his 3rd highest, but that was his highest since 2019, so his 2nd year in the league. So obviously that's a key part to a Sean McVay offense. And the reason I bring that up, and you see it now with Kyren Williams. They use Kyren Williams a lot.
Right.
Matthew Stafford and Cooper Kupp have both grown used to, presumably, playing in offenses where they can rely on that key running back, where they don't. Matthew Stafford doesn't have to do everything. Cooper Kupp doesn't have to do everything. What?
So basically, I was going to add on to that. So one of the reasons, and we'll kind of get into it, but one of the reasons why Russell Wilson and Arthur Smith were kind of beefing was because Arthur Smith is a very run-first type of offense, and we've kind of seen that with Tennessee and whatnot. So to like add to your point of getting like a Matt Stafford and Cooper Kupp, like I said, I don't expect Matt Stafford to be in Pittsburgh. If he does, that's crazy. But if he did, the idea would still, in my opinion, reign that like I think Arthur Smith would probably still do more of a run-heavy offense despite having Matt Stafford and Cooper Kupp, which would probably benefit Matt Stafford if he is used to like having the run-heavy teams. Because you can't, despite Najee Harris having a 1,000-yard season, it was very underwhelming with like averaging like a 3.9 yards a carry. It might be higher than that, but it was definitely very low. But if you have somebody that is a better running back, like I said, it could help. But obviously, if he's getting over 1,000 yards this season, despite the production load that the running backs have had, then obviously it's a very run heavy offense on Arthur Smith's part. So I don't think that would be much of an issue over here if Matt Stafford came here. I don't think it would be. I don't think he would, just because it would just seem very odd to get Cooper Kupp from the Rams and then Matt Stafford also from the Rams. It would just seem, because you would have to trade for both. I just don't see it happening that way, because you'd have to give up a lot of assets for them. And I think the Steelers getting both is just very unlikely, unless it's like a big package deal where it's like Stafford and Kupp and like a pick for this player, and maybe this pick, or 2 players and a pick, or whatever the value of both of them are to a player. So I don't know, but I wouldn't worry too much about the running backs. I think it would be great if we actually had a consistent running back, though. I don't know. I just think it would be pretty fun.
I just think you need balance if you're the Steelers.
I agree. I think we need a lot of things more than just balance. I think we need a whole lot of everything. But
I mean, if you gave me 1,000 carries, I'd probably get hurt eventually, but I could get 1 yard, maybe, probably, possibly. I don't know, maybe not, but you know what I'm saying. Like, if you give someone enough carries in the NFL, they're gonna hit that 1,000-yard mark.
Mm-hmm.
But, I don't think Najee's explosive, and I think that's really what the Steelers need. Stan, did you have any more thoughts before we head on over to Chus again to talk about? He alluded to it, but Russell Wilson's fighting with Arthur Smith.
Hey, not much more different, but I will say, if your guy is going to be in the draft this year, his name is Kyle Monangai. He's going to do it for you guys.
I hope you're right, man, if we end up getting him. But right now, like, a lot of where is he? Where's he projected? What round? Is he a first?
No, he's I don't know where he is right now, but he's gonna be late. He's gonna be like a 4th or 5th, I think.
Well, that'd be great, because right now most of the projections just have like first round. So, and a lot of them are having like receiver, but it'd be nice. I mean, having I think Abandakanda should come back here. Bring him home. Just saying.
Who? Kyle Monangai?
Yeah, Rutgers.
Yeah, Rutgers.
Okay.
He's really good. He's really good in my opinion.
I have not heard of him personally. All the guys that I really want
are named Andre Yoshivas. I know.
No. Kyle Scatabo. Scatabo.
Yeah, you like talking about him.
But let's Chus.
Yes.
I like bashing the Steelers whenever I can. It's enjoyable.
Okay.
What's going on with Russell Wilson? He's not returning. I was told he was the greatest quarterback in Steelers history.
Okay, well, I don't.
And I said he shouldn't be starting. And now he's beefing with Arthur Smith. What's going on over there in Pittsburgh?
I was gonna say, who have you been talking to that said he's the best quarterback out of Pittsburgh? I don't know what kind of people you talk to on a regular basis, but they're delusional. But anyway, yeah. So I haven't read too far into it. I mean, there's a lot of speculation, a lot of rumors with it. So right now, the report is that Russell Wilson is not expected to re-sign with Pittsburgh. It's been all over my feed. It's been everywhere. A lot of Pittsburgh sources have been talking about it. I mean, once again, it's rumored, it's speculation. There's nothing confirmed yet. Nobody has said straight up, hey, you know what? He's not coming back. But some sources that have been getting things somewhat right occasionally and stuff like that have also been reporting it too. And like I said, it wouldn't have blown up like it has if it was from like some just wannabe writer. So I think it's pretty interesting to look at a rumor like this, especially going into the off season. But a lot of it also has to stem from this other report that was made saying that Russell Wilson and Arthur Smith had a lot of creative differences, I guess could be put in the way that you would want to put it. But the way that it was kind of described was a very like a clash when it came to offensive play calling. And it reminded me a lot of how Ben Roethlisberger and Todd Haley would argue back in the 2010s. Ben Roethlisberger would go out for an offensive play and Todd Haley would call something. And then Ben in the huddle would be like, okay, we're not going to do that. We're actually going to do this. And then completely just change the entire play. And Russell Wilson started doing that during the Bengals game because Arthur Smith was very run, pass, and we see that all season. And in a crucial game, like against you guys, against the Bengals, trying to, still try to keep afloat, try to get that 5th place to try to versus Houston or whatever we were trying to do, try to beat you guys. Even just trying to keep our division hopes alive. But at that point, our division hopes were crushed anyway. Apparently Russell Wilson was audibling a lot during that game. and Arthur Smith was getting mad at him for audibling so much because he kept changing it to throw more, and he would keep passing and keep throwing and stuff. And I think that caused a clash between the two. And I think because of that, it's also causing the issue of, well, if the Steelers are that invested in Arthur Smith, then we can't keep invested in Russell Wilson. So they're kind of going to just let Russell Wilson walk. Whereas Fields isn't as likely. I mean, he only played for 6 games. He went 4-2 with it. Under that offense, I mean, he did more of the run, pass type style. I mean, it wasn't that productive in most of the games, but it worked. And also Justin Fields used a lot of his leg ability, which is not something that Arthur Smith was really able to do with Russell Wilson. I mean, Russell Wilson was a big scrambler back in the day, but as age goes forward, you can only run so much. I mean, we even saw that with Ben. Ben used to run back in the early 2000s. Then you see him run in 2021, and he's like a tree. People were calling him like running as mobile as a tree. So the thing is I think that I think it's really interesting. I mean, I find most news and rumors pretty interesting, especially going into this offseason where we have the option between Russell Wilson or Justin Fields signing both, neither, or one or the other. And right now it looks like the direction is they're moving on from Russell Wilson. But the thing is nobody has been reporting about Justin Fields other than the idea that if Justin Fields hits the free agent market, he could get like 15 a year, depending on who's looking for him. So it's gonna be a wait and see, but right now that is the rumor of Russell Wilson is he's been clashing with Arthur Smith, and he's not expected to re-sign with the team. Which honestly, I'm not totally against it, I guess, or for it necessarily. I mean, I don't think we're making a playoff push, but if the Steelers want to continue trying to make a playoff push, I mean, you could try to bring him back, but like I said, you'd need some sort of wide receiver tool to kind of help him than just George Pickens. Because despite George Pickens claiming that he never gets the ball, he did have a game where he was targeted 7 times and only caught 2 of the passes. So I don't really, know what's going on with him there. But if you're going to go with more of the younger guy, the future, somebody you might want to build the offense around, you might as well try to see what goes on with Justin Fields. But you still kind of would want that mentor behind Fields, even if it's not the guy that's starting. Like, go pick up like a Teddy Bridgewater or something like that. I don't know. Go pick up somebody to give Justin Fields a little bit of development during that time. I mean, he didn't do bad in the first 6 games. I mean, I think the Cowboys game that he lost was I think the 2 losses that he had were really on the defense at times. I mean, I think he made a lot of mistakes in that Cowboys game, but the Steelers also probably the Steelers defense shouldn't have let a 15 drive play happen that caused Dak Prescott to score a touchdown in the late stages of the game either. And also against the Colts, a high-powered offense Colts team that should have been shut down by the defense just got snapped. We got snapped, and Fields went off. He had like 4 touchdowns almost. He had like 300 yards total. Like, it was a crazy offensive day for Justin Fields, but we still lost 27-24. I'm just saying, like, I feel like that game should have probably been a win too if the defense wouldn't have folded. So I think Fields is a lot better than people think, but obviously Russell Wilson was going to be the guy to begin with. I was very passionate about Fields starting at the beginning of the season and to continue forth, regardless of Russell Wilson's injury. Russell Wilson still got us to the same spot that Kenny Pickett did and Mason Rudolph and Mitchell Trubisky and all of those quarterbacks did the last 2 or 3 seasons. So it doesn't really matter to me, in my opinion, the difference in the records. But that being said, yeah, that's the news going on with Russ.
Okay. Well, sticking in the AFC North here, we're going to be in the AFC North for a while, but the Cincinnati Bengals have got a ton of work to do this offseason with their own guys. And they've kind of been using Super Bowl media week as an opportunity to kind of make their case, specifically Joe Burrow and Trey Hendrickson. Now, Joe Burrow has said multiple times, he's been saying it in post-game pressers, he said it during the Pro Bowl, and now he said it again this week, that he is going to help them keep T. He is going to help them keep Jamar. He's going to help them keep Trey. And most recently, he added Mike Gesicki. So he I forget which podcast it was on. So I apologize for that. But he said, I want to keep, we need to extend Jamar, T, Trey, and Mike G. So T, obviously, that's been in the news for a while. That's been in the news since last year. Like, how are you going to keep T Higgins? Jeremy Fowler has actually now reported that it is more likely that T. Higgins stays with the Bengals and kind of maybe even takes a lesser pay than trying to go into free agency and get top dollar, just because he wants to stay with Joe Burrow. He wants to stay with Jamar. He wants to stay in that offense where he continues to get fed and be in that top tier offense. And then the heartbreaker for me personally was Trey Hendrickson. He was on the Pat McAfee show, and it's about a 30-minute long interview. And that interview was so sad to me because he basically said, like, hey, I love Cincinnati. My son was born in Cincinnati. I want more than anything for Cincinnati to win a Super Bowl, and I want to help them do that. And if me getting traded so they can get more draft picks helps them win a Super Bowl, that's what I want. He wasn't necessarily saying he wanted to be traded, though. He was just saying he wanted to help the team in the best way that he could. Now, I speak for all Bengals fans everywhere. Do not trade Trey Hendrickson. He just led the league in sacks, doing it all by himself. You have to extend Trey Hendrickson. He has earned the extension. He is the only thing that works on this defense currently. So you cannot let him walk. You cannot trade him. You need him. And he clearly wants to be in Cincinnati. He wants to help this team no matter what. Joe has said that he's willing to restructure his contract. I don't know how much that really helps. And sometimes it works. Sometimes it causes you to just kind of kick the can down the road and go into a spiral. I think you need to sit down with Joe, who's obviously taking up the most of this cap. Figure out how to spread that out more. Figure out how to make these contracts guarantee heavy. I know that Mike Brown, in terms of NFL owners, is not the most cash-rich owner, but I still think there's something you got to be able to do to make it work. Teams are making it work. You hear people say, well, you can't have the top wide receiver and the top quarterback, and you can't have all this and pay them money. The Philadelphia Eagles are paying a quarterback, 2 wide receivers top money, an O-line, and a bunch of defensive players top money. It can be done. You just have to do it carefully and methodically. And now that Eric All is apparently out for the 2025 season, I feel like you have to extend Mike Gesicki, because you're presumably you're not bringing back Tanner Hudson. We're cutting Alex Kappa, hopefully. We're cutting Zach Moss, may even be cutting Sam Hubbard. So,
well, didn't you already say that the Bengals said that one of their big priorities was trying to re-sign Mike Gesicki, or keeping the core 4, which included Mike Gesicki?
Yeah, it's a priority, but until there's pen to paper, it's not done. It's a priority to extend T. Higgins, I'm sure.
Right.
But you've got to offer him an actual contract. And one of the biggest things that has been consistent with the Bengals is their front office does not communicate with the players. And that goes back to Andrew Whitworth. Andrew Whitworth has talked about that when he was doing deals, they didn't communicate with him. He was finding out stuff through Twitter. Trey Hendrickson said he found out from his dad, who saw a Twitter post, what was going on with the extensions and stuff. It's like, you got to communicate with your players. I mean, these guys are sacrificing things for you. The least you can do is try to communicate the context in which things are going on. It seems like most of them want to work with the team, but is the team going to work with them? Right. So, I don't want to go all in and say the Bengals are going to re-sign this guy and this guy and this guy and this guy. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. But I don't think if it doesn't happen, it's not going to be the players' fault. It's not going to be because the players were asking for too much money. I think it's going to be because the front office didn't communicate. The front office didn't do things right. I don't care about draft picks when it comes to the Bengals, because the Bengals don't draft well, in my opinion. I know, Stan, you said you thought the Bengals had all these great draft picks. I do not think they draft well at all. Joseph Asai, we drafted him, and now he played well whenever he played, but now his rookie contract's up, and we don't know what to do with him because Lou never played him. He played really well near the end of this season when he played, but we draft these guys and then we never use them. So it's like, what's the point of the draft picks then? Jordan Battle was the same way. It's just, I don't know. I would much rather keep those those 5 guys and keep them together and then build up in free agency. So that's just a little update. Obviously, when things become more clear, Trey Hendrickson's agent is supposed to meet with the Bengals this coming week. So hopefully we get some clarity of what's going to happen that we can actually report on and discuss more. But right now, I'm saying everything is in the hands of the Bengals front office.
When you said guarantee heavy, do you mean that for Burrow's contract or for whose contract?
I mean for all of them. I think you have to, at the very least, T and Jamar and Trey. Mike's probably doesn't have to be as guarantee heavy, but I think you have to like show the players that like, because that's just where these contracts are now. It's like, we're going to pay you even if you get hurt. And maybe for T, you're like, dude, you get hurt like every year for a few games. So maybe you're a bit more hesitant on that. But Jamar doesn't really get hurt that much. I'm not too worried about that. Trey plays through injuries all the time. So I wouldn't be too worried about guaranteeing him money.
Well, here's why I ask, because like with the non-guaranteed money, when you let the league office decide the percentage that becomes, a real cap hit, I think you could save a lot on Burrow's contract, especially if you take those guarantees and lower them, make them, performance-based. Because the league office, when they choose that, even for a good quarterback like Joe Burrow, they tend to really make it more team-friendly.
Yeah. And I mean, obviously, as incentive-based would be best in terms of like cap salary, but a lot of players aren't going to go for that, Like the players want their money.
I feel like Joe Burrow's talking all this talk. He's saying he wants to help the team out. If they're going to restructure his contract, they'd have to take a lot of the guarantees and reduce that. So,
That's true.
what I would think is for T. Higgins, for him, his situation, for Trey Hendrickson, I think you should guarantee it. But for Joe Burrow, he's the head honcho there. Look at what Tom Brady did. He took money from every single year. He was making it less and less guaranteed as he got older, and they were able to get him Super Bowl so late into his career. I mean, the first half of Tom Brady's career, he wasn't having as much success until he really took those guarantees and brought them down. And that's when the Patriots saw success, and that's why Tampa Bay had success later. So what I'm thinking is, no, I would really minimize the guarantees for Burrow.
That's fair. And I don't know if he'd be open to that. I don't know if his agent would be open to that. But the fact is they got to do something to keep these guys together right now and to be able to build up this defense. And I think it can be done. It's just whether or not the Bengals are going to decide to actually move into the 21st century with these contracts. But another AFC North story. Big name got traded, and it was rumored he was going to request a trade. Or he didn't get traded, but he requested a trade. It was rumored he was going to request a trade, and all the fans of this team said, no way, we've got a plan, and he's going to stay. And now he's posted on X. He's leaving. He wants to leave. That is this man right here, Myles Garrett. And I think when every AFC North fan that wasn't a Cleveland Browns fan read that he wanted out of the Cleveland Browns, there was a collective sigh of relief. I know I am tired of that man. I am tired of that man sacking Joe Burrow. So what was your guys' I gave my top 3 teams that I think would be good for Myles Garrett, but I want to get your guys' response to that trade request. What was your kind of were you shocked, surprised?
I think when I first saw it, I was kind of shocked, but also I thought about it a little bit more, and I was kind of thinking about it, and I was like, you know what? I think Myles Garrett probably should have requested this trade because he is a great defensive player that probably, just like many other great defensive players, just wants to win. And right now, their best chance at winning anything was with Baker Mayfield, and the Bengals, because we were just talking about the Bengals. The Browns dumped Baker Mayfield, and Baker Mayfield is having more success in Tampa Bay than the Browns are having in general. with or without Deshaun Watson. I mean, Deshaun Watson has been hurt. And even with Deshaun Watson, it's still really been kind of a lackluster couple of seasons. I mean, yes, you made playoffs not too long ago, and you had Joe Flacco leading the charge, but even then, it still really didn't go a whole lot anywhere. And I don't think this team is set up for success. And with Deshaun Watson once again tweaking his Achilles and probably going to be out the entire season again, I think Myles Garrett is probably just gearing up for the idea that there's probably no real future for him to win any type of Super Bowl. And I think with him and his dream of wanting to win one, I think that he should request a trade. I think that he should go and move on. I mean, honestly, me and my friend had a discussion about this. Connor, who's a friend of the show, he's been on a couple of times. Me and him talked about this, and we wouldn't be surprised if TJ Watt requests one in a year or two, because it's one of those things where Myles Garrett has more playoff wins than TJ Watt does. And the thing is, or at least in the last couple of years, I don't know overall. TJ got drafted in 2017. We probably had, no, we haven't, no, I don't think TJ Watt's ever won a playoff game. Yeah. So Myles Garrett will probably have more. But that being said, a lot of these guys' dream is to win at least one or be on a championship team. Myles Garrett has never gotten that close. TJ Watt's never gotten that close. There's players that have gotten that close when they were younger, and then they turn into bridge players. And I think the thing is I think for Myles Garrett is, like I said, initially I was shocked, but also since he's requesting a trade out of Cleveland, I'm really not that shocked. And honestly, I think Cleveland should use this to their advantage, because Myles Garrett could probably give them a lot of really great assets that they could use to actually, rebuild their team and actually try to focus on the best for their organization, because they already made some dumb mistakes dumping Baker Mayfield for Deshaun Watson, who had been sitting out for a year. Well, he didn't sit out, but he got suspended or whatever it was. But that being said, I don't know why you wouldn't. And now Baker Mayfield's been doing great with Tampa. You made a mistake. You might as well let Myles Garrett go. I mean, the only piece of that team that's good is Myles Garrett, in my opinion. I think the rest of the team is mediocre. I mean, Nick Chubb getting hurt it really didn't help your case going into the season. I mean, he really still wasn't the tank that he once was after that gruesome injury that he had 2 seasons ago. But the point being is that I think that it's a good move for Myles Garrett. I don't think that they're going to trade him, though, because they already said that they weren't going to. So I'm expecting him to still play, or maybe he'll sit out, or maybe we'll see.
I was going to say, do you think he'd sit out? How dedicated do you think he is to?
He might also pull a so one of the guys that I could compare this situation to is like Eric Ebron. Eric Ebron always played really good in his final season of his final season of his contract, and then would hit free agency and then go somewhere else for kind of semi top dollar. He always seemed to be semi better. And then in the first 2 or 3 years of his contract, he'd always do bad. And then his last year, he'd always do better. And Pittsburgh was kind of the reverse. I could see what Myles Garrett doing for this would be, he played so many great years. I could see him maybe not sitting out, but not giving that much effort, not caring enough, and just being I don't want to risk injury. You guys aren't trading me, but I'm not going to push myself. So he probably won't win many defensive statistics or anything, but he'll be enough of a not game changer that probably by the end of the trade deadline of next season, they'll probably trade him away. So I think he'll probably do enough where it's this guy isn't doing a whole lot. He has a couple of pressures. He's doing, but he has no sacks. He has 80 tackles, but no sacks or whatever the stat line is. He's not doing much for our defense. We're 0-8 right now. We need to change.
He's regressed. He's gotten too old.
Right. And then he gets traded, and then he actually tries really hard because he gets traded to somebody like Kansas City or something.
That'd be insane. What, Stan?
I was gonna say, I'm looking at his contract right now, and it's a decent contract for his value. He's a very affordable player for many teams. So why not go put him with a championship team, and when he expires in 2 years, bring him right back? I mean, there's players who've done that before, right? Plenty of players come back in the twilight of their career, go back to the team that drafted them. We've seen it before, and maybe if he really likes Cleveland that much, because he said it wasn't against the city, it wasn't against the team, it was just he wants to win, right? So go win that championship, go make that run, and you can go back to your team after that. So if you're a Browns fan, I wouldn't be mad at Myles Garrett. He gave you some of the best play you've seen from that team in the last, 4, 5, 6 years now, right? 4 years, he's been the best player year in, year out. So let him go. Let him win the championship. As long as he doesn't go to a division rival. As a Jets fan, my favorite player went to a division rival to win a Super Bowl, and that sucked. But he came back the next year, so I'll give him that.
I Myles Garrett, man, he's just such a game changer. I would imagine that there's teams banging on the door trying to bring him in. I mean, I said in my video, Detroit Lions should be going for him, and just that pairing with Aiden Hutchinson would be absolutely insane. That left and right quarterbacks would be having nightmares, and then you'd be able to sub in Zadarius Smith. We've already seen how he works with Myles Garrett. That pass rush would be nice. I'm sure that new defensive coordinator would love being able to come in and say, okay, I'm starting with Myles Garrett and Aiden Hutchinson, and then Zadarius Smith is my backup. Oh, yeah, let's go. And Aleem McNeil played well this past season. I think that this is what the Detroit Lions need. I don't know what they'd be willing to give up for it, but I like it. I also like the line that Myles Garrett dropped in his announcement where he said the plan was never to go from Cleveland to Canton. I was like, oh, he's been thinking about this for a while. He just wants a championship, and he's probably looking at Deshaun Watson's contract, and he's just like, this guy's making that money. This guy's like playing us into a hole, and he has been. So I want Myles Garrett to get out of the division because I know he's not going to come to the Bengals. So get him over to the NFC North.
Yeah, and talking about that, you said Zadarius Smith as a backup, but if you look in modern NFL defenses, you need like 4 good players at least on a D line who could come and you want at least 2 of them on the field at all times, right? And for most teams, if you want to win a Super Bowl, you need like 6 good rushers across that line. So Myles Garrett, I mean, his value to that team, especially at just under $20 million of a cap hit, it's amazing. So I think for the Lions, for any team that gets him, he could really be that big piece that takes you over the edge.
Yeah. So that's thoughts on Myles Garrett. We'll see what happens there. See if he actually gets traded. There's some big game going on Sunday. People won't shut up about it. Apparently, it's a big deal. The Super Bowl. I don't know. Some people are watching. Some people aren't watching. I'll probably watch, but I have to work that night, so I don't know how much of it I'll watch. Obviously, Kansas City Chiefs versus the Philadelphia Eagles. What are your guys' thoughts on this matchup? Obviously, it's one we've recently seen, so it doesn't really feel like it's super exciting. And then, of course, Patrick Mahomes has been in the last however many Super Bowls. So let me know what you guys think.
I'm not really looking forward to watching this Super Bowl again, but if I had to root for one, I'm obviously going to root for the Philadelphia Eagles. I just don't care enough anymore. I think that there's points that I'm seeing that like make me believe that this is just some sort of like NFL entertainment rigged scheme, because the Eagles since like 2021 have gone up from $2 billion to $8 billion in revenue, and the Chiefs are the Chiefs, and Patrick Mahomes being the historic three-peat, and Taylor Swift's going to be there, and then Travis Kelce can propose to Taylor Swift and then retire, and they can walk off into the sunset together. It just seems like a whole freaking fake. It feels fake. This all doesn't feel real. I'm not going to enjoy this. And the commercials suck.
Yeah, some of them look okay.
I'm not. Yeah, I don't. Yeah, I miss 2010s commercials. Yeah, 2000s commercials. Those Super Bowl commercials were elite. What happened to good marketing? Everyone became boring.
Commercials used to just be better in general. I miss like the NASCAR drivers being in commercials, and you have like the Dale call with the Mountain Dew. That was an elite commercial. Mountain Dew Dale call, Dale Earnhardt Jr. But
Yep.
Stan, what are your thoughts on this Super Bowl here?
Every season I'm just surprised that some teams have games this late in the year, so that's a really cool thing to see. But yeah, as Chus said, it's the same thing we've seen over and over again. One cool thing is that you can watch it for free on Tubi. So I will not have to make a YouTube TV account and then cancel it after the free trial ends this year. So that's kind of cool. But I mean, yeah, I mean, it's in terms of the game itself, I'm going to be looking at Jalen Hurts. Really, I think he's the biggest X factor. Where if he shows up and he's able to operate well with the pressure, the Eagles have it all going their way. Saquon Barkley is the heart of that team, the Eagles, and it's I don't even feel like talking about the Chiefs because we've seen them every single year. They're always there. We know who they are. But for the Eagles, can Jalen Hurts show up? And can Saquon keep it going? I think Saquon will keep it going. Jalen Hurts is the X factor I'm keeping an eye on in this game.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I mean, people are going to talk about Jalen Hurts and like Jalen Hurts this, Jalen Hurts that. Is Jalen Hurts elite? But I think really the most important part of this team is Saquon. Like, is Saquon going to play well? Can the Chiefs stop Saquon? And the Chiefs have a good defensive line and they love to blitz, but the answer to that blitz is screen pass. So if Jalen Hurts can just screen pass off to Saquon Barkley and he gets positive yards, that's going to hurt the Chiefs' identity in some ways as a blitzing team. And so they'll have to readjust. There are players on the Chiefs that I like D-Hop. I want him to get a ring. I don't want him to get the ring with the Chiefs. Drew Tranquil is from Fort Wayne. I want him to get another Super Bowl ring, not with the Chiefs. So I'm not against the players on the Chiefs. It's just I get so tired of watching this same old thing happen again. I mean, that Bengals Rams Super Bowl feels like a fluke at this point because like we never see any other teams in the Super Bowl now. And I don't know. It just doesn't – it feels weird. Last year's Super Bowl felt weird too with the Chiefs and the 49ers, but at least the 49ers, it was like it's the Avengers, and they're going to take on the Chiefs, and they're going to beat them. And now they didn't.
And it also seemed like a different team too because in 2020 Super Bowl, that 49ers team was led by Jimmy Garoppolo, and that was before Christian McCaffrey got there too. And then that year – this Eagles team, the only real change, I mean, yeah, there's some other changes and stuff to it as well, but I think one of the major changes, obviously, is Saquon Barkley in the backfield. The 49ers just felt like a completely different team, but last year's Super Bowl was just not a Super Bowl I watched. I didn't watch that Super Bowl. I caught the end of it just to see what would happen in overtime, but then the Chiefs won again, and I was just like, yeah, this is stupid. And it's just like a waste. It's kind of like a waste of time just because like I enjoy the change. I enjoy the inconsistency, and that's why I like watching other sports a lot more than the NFL sometimes towards playoff season because like in the NHL, the MLB, more or less in the NHL and NBA, there always seems to be different types of teams that come in the finals. I mean, you might get a repeat here and there, but you're usually not going to get the same matchup, multiple years in a row, multiple same teams, the same years in a row. It just seems like it's the same teams, and I don't know why. Because like it doesn't happen frequently in other sports where you see this team like the Penguins, for example, went to the Stanley Cup in 2016 and then they went to the Stanley Cup in 2017, but they played two different teams. They won back-to-back years and they really haven't done any playoff success since. The NBA, yeah, like you can go through all the NHL, the NBAs, even the MLBs. Like, I mean, there's teams that like show up and just, that they're just like, oh, wow, that's really cool. They won. But it feels like over the last like 15, 20 years, it's just been the Patriots and the Chiefs. And I get that the Patriots had Brady and now the Chiefs have Mahomes. But like, I don't know. The NFL is just kind of ridiculous now. It just doesn't feel fun. It's just not fun anymore. It's starting to get boring.
I mean, talking about Brady and Mahomes, I mean, there's no other sport where there's so much focus on one position. I mean, even in the MLB, right? Like you talked about that. I remember like the Diamondbacks won 2 years ago or something. I was like, who? Like the Diamondbacks? I don't even watch baseball. I was like, how is some Arizona team winning this? But it's like in baseball, when you think about like a pitcher can't even play back-to-back games, so you lose that. In hockey, like your starting lineup is all constantly getting switched out. You have like different sets, right? So there's so much more variance and so many more players who have to play major parts in the story. While you look at football and it's just all about that quarterback. And it's great if you have that quarterback, but as you mentioned, you don't see other types of stories being told outside of the quarterback in the NFL.
Yeah, and you want to you go through the World Series. I mean, I see a whole lot of Dodgers in here, but I see also a whole lot of Dodgers losing. And then you go through the World Series, oh yeah, Dodgers beat the Yankees last year, but then the year before that, the Diamondbacks beat the Rangers, and then the year before that it was the Phillies and the Astros, and then the Braves and the Astros, and the Dodgers and the Tampa Bay Rays. And I don't know, it just feels, and even if you go in the Stanley Cup, Tampa Bay had a really crazy run over the first couple of years. But if you go through the 2010s, it was Blackhawks and Flyers, Bruins and Canucks, Kings and Devils, Blackhawks and Bruins. Again, wait, no, that's not true. But Kings and Rangers, Blackhawks and Lightning, Penguins and Sharks, Penguins and Predators, Capitals and Golden Knights, Blues and Bruins, Lightning and Stars. I don't know. It just always felt different. You're not getting a lot of the same matchups. You're getting similar teams, but not same matchups. And I don't know. I mean, you get the type of you get dynasties and stuff like that more in the NFL than you do in the other sports. And that's why right now it's just kind of a boring time, in my opinion. In the NFL, it's not exciting because that's why. What
point of clarity? Didn't the Rangers, and I know very little about baseball, so I could be an idiot.
Which one? Texas Rangers or the New York
Didn't the Rangers beat the Diamondbacks for the World Series? Not the other way around.
They might have. I mean,
I think the Rangers won the World Series in 2023.
They did win the World Series in 2023. I'm pretty sure, yeah. But I don't.
I don't think the Diamondbacks have actually won the World Series in a while.
No, I don't know if they. I believe the Rangers did win that year, though.
I mean, still, I was so surprised when I saw that they made it, because that would be like the Titans. Imagine the Titans made the Super Bowl this year, right? No one saw that coming, but from day one, half of the fans of this league could have guessed it was going to be Eagles versus the Chiefs. It was so obvious.
Right.
I think the Eagles are the better team too. That's the annoying part. I think the Eagles are a better team than the Chiefs, but I think the Chiefs are going to somehow win.
Well, yeah, because the 49ers were a better team than the Chiefs were last year.
And
that Eagles team also had a 35-14 lead over the Chiefs 2 years ago, and
Mahomes isn't even playing that well.
They're still going to win. It's not even worth watching to an extent, but they're still going to watch it because the Eagles and the Chiefs bring in so much television revenue. It just does. It's just how it is right now. That's why I hate it, because you go through, and the reason why some of these other that's why it's just a whole conspiracy. I'm conspiracizing because it's the same teams. And then next year, you know who it's going to be? I'll tell you who it's going to be. It's going to be the
Cincinnati Bengals.
No, you're wrong. It's going to be the Chiefs and 49ers again.
No. Dude,
Yeah.
I'd be
the Chiefs are going to the Bengals. The Bengals will make the wild card. Will get screwed in the wild card. And then the Chiefs will play the Bills in the divisional. They'll win again. And then the Chiefs in the conference championship will play some bum team, and then they'll win. And then they'll go on, and they'll play the 49ers again.
I don't like this script, Mr. McMahon. I want a new script.
Yeah, I agree. I do want a new script. If I had it my way, the NFC championship would be Carolina and Washington next year. Because that's fun. It's fun. And then you want the AFC, give me, I don't know. Give me freaking I don't even know. I'm not even going to mention the Steelers. I wasn't even going to mention the Steelers. Initially, I was going to say the Bengals and the Jets because that would be fun for you guys. So give me the Bengals and the Jets. Do that. Give me the Bengals and the Jets. But all I'm saying is they're fun matchups. They're different. They're new. They're exciting. And I feel even in the NHL and the NBA and stuff, there's a sense of oh yeah, this team can probably lose. Or in MLB, it's oh, this team can probably lose. And it happens. Yes, the Tampa Bay Lightning went to 3 Stanley Cups in a row this decade, but 2 of them they won during the bubble, during COVID. And then the first time that they actually had fans in front of them, they folded and they lost. So it's it's kind of fun. It's exciting and it's different. And then this past season, we saw Florida play Edmonton. Florida was up 3-0. Edmonton came back, tied it 3-3, and Florida still won 4-3. That's fun. I'm entertained. 7 games of just nonstop action. The Super Bowl,
Well, if you want inconsistency, you should watch NASCAR because the NASCAR rules change from race to race because they can't figure out what the heck they're doing.
Oh.
So it's a point of anger with many fans. But if you want inconsistency, NASCAR's got you. Like there'll literally be like rules that come into effect, and drivers will be like, "I didn't even know that was a thing. What the heck?" And now they all have podcasts, so you get to hear them rant about it for a week. But yeah, I'm going to root for the Eagles just because I don't want the Chiefs to. I don't want that to happen. The Eagles have a ton of injuries though right now, and Jalen Carter's sick, so that's super fun. But I hope the Eagles can get this done, and we can all just accept the fact. I'm gonna be mad if the Eagles win this, and people are like, "Oh, Jalen Hurts is better than Joe Burrow." That's gonna get on my nerves, but that's really the only thing with the Eagles that could get on my nerves because I think if you think Jalen Hurts is better than Joe Burrow, you're a moron. But let's move on. Let's. None of us want to talk about this, so let's just not.
But I want Kenny Pickett to get a ring, so I'll be rooting for the Eagles. It'd be really funny. So, Kenny Pickett, my boy from Pitt, Super Bowl champion, Kenny Pickett.
I think the Carson Wentz should have to play Kenny Pickett in the Super Bowl. Rest both starters.
Yeah, and then they'll play in the Super Duper Bowl, and then
Give Carson Wentz a chance to win a Super Bowl.
Yeah,
like that he's actually playing in.
And then Kenny Pickett will win it instead, and then the Eagles win the Super Bowl because of Kenny Pickett.
Stan, did you have thoughts before we move on to the NFL honors?
I really don't care who wins. I mean, it's like it's gonna happen. I'll watch it. I will watch it, but yeah.
I've been intentionally avoiding the commercials previews so that I can be like, oh, like surprised by some of them. And working in news, they like released early as like play these on the news so that people like feel teased about them and like can see them early. And it's like, no, I'm not doing that. I'm hiding them from myself and others. But NFL honors. Let's talk about that. Those were awarded last night. We can talk about the Hall of Fame class a little bit too if you guys so desire. But let's just go down the line. MVP, Josh Allen. I did not expect this, but I'm so glad it happened. And it's nothing against Lamar Jackson. It is kind of because last year he did not deserve the MVP and he got it. And this year, if we're all being honest, he probably did deserve it, but he didn't get it. So I feel like justice has been served. The universe has been fixed in that regard. Balance has been restored. So Josh Allen is your MVP. Do you guys feel that this was the right decision that the voters made? It's also the first time that apparently I saw this morning. It's the first time the first all-team pro quarterback did not win MVP.
I don't think it's that. I think it's a pretty big deal. I was gonna say I don't think it's that crazy, in my opinion. I think that he deserved it. I kind of expected Lamar to win it, but I think the voters kind of probably wanted to shake things up this year because Josh Allen did have a pretty good year, and they weren't too far off winning against the Chiefs in the AFC Championship. I mean, I think a lot of people expected them to win, but obviously folded because it's the Chiefs. But I think with all due respect, I think that Lamar Jackson got it last year, didn't deserve it. And I think this year, like you said, justice was served. And Josh Allen deserves it. I mean, he should have gotten MVP at some point in his career, but I mean, he had always had some great competition against him. So it's just really cool to finally see the guy actually win it.
And the thing going against him was always the interceptions. And this year he cleaned that up.
Right. No, yeah, he had a lot less interceptions than he typically does. So that helped.
So, I feel like he earned it. Last year I would have given it to Dak Prescott for the record. Lamar got it. That's fine. Dandy, whatever. But this year I think Josh Allen earned that. Stan, what are your thoughts? I know, divisional rival.
I think the real story here is Joe Brady. I mean, the OC there. Because look at the turnaround Josh Allen had. I mean, I was criticizing them for getting rid of their OC midseason. But, I mean, it was an immediate turnaround with Josh Allen playing better. And the system itself is why he improved so much. So, to me, it shows how much of a difference getting the right OC can make for a team. Because before they got Joe Brady, they still had most things looking good on their team. They had the pieces there. They had one of the better coaches in the league. But all of a sudden, they get this one guy put into that position, and they're playing so much better. So that to me is the story to go from, especially because they have worse wide receivers. He had worse targets overall that he was going to this season, but he was able to have so much of a better season.
Yeah, I mean, people were saying that Josh Allen's on a talented offense and that he got carried. I don't think they watched Bills games. They're talking like Keon Coleman, Amari Cooper. I'm like,
Right.
yeah, they were on the team, but
Well, that
also
was
Lamar
my-
Jackson had like 9 Pro Bowlers on his team. Like, what are you talking about here?
Well, that was going to be my other point. I mean, yes, I mean, I do think Lamar Jackson didn't have as much talent as he's had in years past, but obviously this year they bumped it up with Derrick Henry and whatnot. But I think one of the big things with Buffalo and Josh Allen this year was a lot of people, and I think we did too, if we go back and watch, I don't think we had Buffalo as high, and nobody really did. Nobody expected Buffalo to be as good as they were because they had lost Stephon Diggs. They had lost all of these key pieces and stuff like that. Their main source of offense was going to be James Cook, and somehow Josh Allen, regardless of it, regardless of all the changes in their team, still balled out, and they still went to the AFC Championship. So in my opinion, I think the expectations were already high for Lamar Jackson, whereas the expectations were low with Josh Allen, and he exceeded expectations to the point where he did better than he did last year with all of his All-Stars. So I think there's a lot to be said with that, and I think that he is probably deserving of it. And honestly, on top of that, it's a nice little shake up here and there. You don't always want the same player to get MVP 2 or 3 years in a row.
It was close. He got 23 votes. Josh Allen got 27. So it wasn't like Josh Allen blew him out of the water. I think that's fair. He earned those votes.
There was one player that did blow everyone out of the water, though. It was really funny. That we'll get to at some point.
I want to talk about Offensive Player of the Year next. I don't know if that's who you're talking about.
No, I actually was thinking of the rookie, but
yes, I have beef with the Offensive Player of the Year voters, though. So I'm not saying Saquon didn't earn it. Okay, first of all, let's just like Saquon 2,000-yard rushing season. Probably could have broke the record if he had decided to not sit out. That's fine. I'm all good with that. I'm good with Saquon winning it. He got 35 votes. Second was Lamar Jackson with 12 votes. Derrick Henry had 1, Josh Allen had 1, and Joe Burrow had 1. You're telling me Jamar Chase couldn't get 1 vote? Jamar Chase got the triple crown. And you're telling me there wasn't one voter who was like, maybe we should acknowledge this. Like, I mean, when Cooper Kupp got the triple crown, it was like, oh yeah, he's the clear winner of the Offensive Player of the Year. We don't even need to hold a vote. But now, like, you get the triple crown and you can't even get 1. Again, I'm not saying Jamar should win. I think an argument can be made for Jamar and Saquon to why they should have won it. But you're telling me Derrick Henry had a great season as well. But Derrick Henry did what Derrick Henry does. And it's so hard to get the triple crown that I feel like Jamar Chase should have gotten at least 1 vote. Like, am I insane here?
Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
Might be insane.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I mean, the thing is like you have to look like majority 35 of the 50 people voted for Saquon Barkley, so you are only going to work with, the 15 other people, and 11, 12 of them voted for Lamar. So you really weren't going to be working with that much people. So obviously, like, those people were like in their head, 35 of them, more than 60% of the people were like, yeah, you know what? Saquon Barkley is the move. So, I mean, you were really going to have to, try to convince somebody from there that Jamar Chase. And the problem was Saquon had such a good season and he was just all over the news. Jamar Chase just got kind of lost in the shuffle. And that's what happens to a lot of these players. And that's the same thing probably that you're going to feel with the Defensive Player of the Year. Trey Hendrickson just got completely just shoved to the side. I mean, he did get some votes, but I mean, he wasn't going to beat Patrick out.
No, but he got acknowledged. That's all I'm saying. I think Jamar should have gotten acknowledged. And I want to talk to that Derrick Henry voter who are you?
Okay, well,
come on the show. I got beef. Where you were like, okay, yeah, Saquon's gonna win this.
I don't know who voted for Derrick Henry. He might have been the same guy that probably. This guy was probably. You want to go through the list real quick? Like for MVP, who was the MVP vote? Who was the other ones for MVP? It was just Lamar. Yeah.
They split.
He probably voted Lamar and Derrick Henry. He probably was like all the single votes.
He voted for Brock Bowers,
Andrew Van Ginkel.
Dude, I got beef, man. Like, come on. That's all I have to say about that. Congrats to Saquon Barkley. You earned it. You really did. But also, like, acknowledge Jamar for crying out loud. Defensive Player of the Year, since Chus brought it up, is Pat Surtain II. He had 26 votes. Trey Hendrickson came in second with 11 votes. Myles Garrett had 5. TJ Watt 3, which I don't know.
I don't know where that came from. TJ Watt did not have a good year this year.
Zach Bond had 2, which he played well. Kirby Joseph 1, played well. Andrew Van Ginkel 1, played. He's a huge part of that Vikings defense. And then same Jonathan Greenyard 1. So I'm okay with that voting. That makes sense to me. Obviously, I would have wanted Trey to win it, but Pat Surtain just played insane this year too. So
and coming from a Steelers fan, I don't really think TJ Watt would have really deserved it this year anyway. Most Steelers fans kind of collectively agreed that like even having 3 votes was generous. Nothing against TJ Watt. I mean, he's always a game changer, but like this year, he just wasn't the same player as he was when he got snubbed like 3 years ago by like Aaron Donald or whatever that year was.
He got shut down by like Devin Cochran and
he did not have a good year this year.
Amarius Mims with a broken hand,
and
Cody Ford. So it's like, DJ, what's going on?
Yeah, he had a lot on his mind. He's expecting a kid this month.
That's what it was. Okay.
Pregnant wife, might be a little stressful time for him. You never know. I don't know. Yeah. I mean, we don't know what it's like to be a father for the first time. Maybe there's a lot on his mind. That's true.
Respect to TJ. Stan, do you have thoughts on either of these? You've been silent.
I mean, not really. There wasn't for like defense. There wasn't really anyone who stood out to me. There wasn't really anyone who this guy really, really deserves it. TJ Watt, I will say, the first few weeks of the season, I thought he was the front runner. He just kind of fell off since then. But yeah, there's not really anything to say about these picks to me. To me, the comeback player of the year. Once we get to that, I will have more to say. But for now,
well, we're there right now, so I'll go ahead and read out the votes, and then we'll let you give your thoughts. So, comeback player of the year voting: Joe Burrow 31, Sam Darnold 8. Damar Hamlin 3, and they changed the rules a little bit so that he still qualified from when he died and came back, which is impressive, but I don't, whatever. J.K. Dobbins 3, Tim Patrick 3, and Christian Gonzalez 2. So, Stan, let me know what your thoughts are here.
Yeah, so sorry, it's cutting out a little bit on my end now. But to me, I expected this or slightly worse from Joe Burrow, and I get the injury happened. I get that. But to me, this is Joe Burrow doing what Joe Burrow should be doing. Like, he is that good of a player. Sam Darnold, to me, though, he so much over, exceeded what I expected from him. I think what anyone expected from him, that to me, he deserved that award more. And I get it. Joe Burrow deserved something. To me, he should have won one of the other, or she should have had more votes in one of the other awards. But it's just, I don't think he really deserved comeback player of the year specifically.
I'm going to fight you.
Yeah. I just never liked how the award is just whoever got injured, and plays better after the injury.
That's what it is. It's the comeback player of the year. What did Sam Darnold come back from? Sucking?
Yeah, to me, that's more of a story. I just like that story more. And Joe Burrow, I just don't like. I expected him to be elite, so he had an elite season. I expect him to be elite. To me, Sam Darnold, there was no expectation of him to have this sort of season. I expected a very solid middle of the line season, and he came out as a top 10 quarterback in terms of performance this year. So to me, that's a story that's screams comeback player of the year to me.
Go back to last offseason. Everyone was saying, and okay, not everyone, but a lot of people were saying, Joe Burrow broke his wrist. He's never going to be the same player again. Like, he's never going to come back. The Bengals are screwed. They like all this stuff. And then he comes out and puts up a season that the only other two quarterbacks to put up those stats won MVP. And he was supposed to suck. He wasn't supposed to be the same quarterback. He wasn't supposed to be able to throw. We had doctors saying like it's not possible. This is the end. His career's over. And he came out, put up historic numbers, didn't win MVP because the defense sucked. Sam Darnold came back. Like Sam Darnold, we knew I thought he was gonna play well in Kevin O'Connell's system. I think if Sam Darnold goes to a system that is different from Kevin O'Connell's, he's going to fall off again. And he didn't come back from anything. He came back from being bad at football, which isn't anything to me, I guess. But I guess there's different interpretations of the award, and I can't really argue against that. But I don't know. Just Chus, or Stan, what?
No, I was just gonna say, like, to add on, I do agree with the argument, and I think the argument is there. I understand it. I just don't like the way the award always goes to, that, or recently at least goes to that sort of player. To me, since Damar Hamlin won it, I was like, I don't know, man. It just, I don't think the injury should have that big of, a say in this award.
I don't think Damar won it.
No, he didn't. Joe Flacco won it that year.
Okay,
that's why they changed the rules this year so that Damar still qualified, because they're like, Damar should probably win this, but he still hasn't won it. Which, I mean, obviously coming back from death is insane. Like, that's an insane comeback. But also, he didn't really do anything that next year, and he had a better season this year. What I wanted them to do was, I thought they should rename the award the Damar Hamlin Award and then give it to Joe Flacco. They gave it to Joe Flacco, but I think obviously we both have a bias. You like Sam Darnold, I like Joe Burrow. Chus, what are your thoughts? Settle this argument.
Why do I have to do this? Anyway, so I think the thing is I think both had really historic years, respectfully, especially like Sam Darnold, considering he was always really, really not the greatest Jet player of all time, and then he sat behind was it Brock Purdy last year? So I mean, he always just kind of was like lost in the dust. So I mean, like like his comeback was really good. I mean, obviously they had a really unfortunate season end in the first round this year for the Vikings, but regardless of that, Joe Burrow and his squad also did not make the playoffs, but Joe Burrow did have that injury last year and did come back and ball out, kind of like how Sam Darnold is. I think if you're looking at it on a statistical standpoint, Joe Burrow had the better numbers, like almost like all the way around. So yes, I could see Joe Burrow being that top candidate. When it comes to Sam Darnold, well, I mean, he did lead his team to the playoffs with like a 14-3 record, a 13-4 record, top record. Nonetheless, Joe Burrow's team had a little bit more of a struggle, but was that Joe Burrow's fault? Was that the defense's fault? I don't know. There's a lot to be said. I don't really know if I have like an opinion based on it. I mean, I congratulations to Joe Burrow, but I think that I think J.K. Dobbins should have won it.
You Swede. JK got hurt halfway through the year.
Yeah, but he had a better year this year. He had quite the comeback.
Saquon.
It's not most improved. If the award was called most improved, I'd be all for giving it to Sam Darnold. But you can't give it to these people who didn't come back from anything.
Well, I mean, in fairness to what Stan's argument is, yes, Sam Darnold did come back from being nothing, though. Like, he was a bum. Like, he went from being bummy with New York, got dumped, back up in San Francisco, probably was never going to see the light of day ever again, and then all of a sudden comes back to the Vikings, not supposed to start, and then historically leads the Vikings to a better season than they did with the year before with Kirk Cousins. I think that there is an argument to be made with that. I agree with that.
I'm going to clip this and I want the comments to decide down below who should win comeback player of the year.
I'm not going to vote on either of them because I think both have an argument for it.
Yeah, because you're taking a neutral stance.
Yeah, and I'm not going to.
You coward.
I'm not going to support the bias of one or the other. So I think that J.K. Dobbins or DeMar Hamlin should have won it.
I'm gonna fight you next time I see you.
Okay. When was the last time I saw you in person? 2023.
You're about to see me like next week. Now I'm coming to Pittsburgh. I'm gonna find you. Commanders. Jaden Daniels, Offensive Rookie of the Year, 49 votes to Brock Bowers, 1 vote. I feel like that's deserved.
I think that one guy that voted for Derrick Henry probably also voted for Brock Bowers, but I think that Brock Bowers should get a little bit of flowers. I mean, Brock Bowers did have a really good season. He probably would have been more of a favorite if he was drafted next year under the same circumstances. Just because I feel like next year, it's a lot more of an open race for rookies because there's not as many quarterbacks competing, and there's not going to be, I don't think, any generational quarterback coming out of next year's draft that's going to blow up right away. But Jaden Daniels all the way. I mean, he led his team, the Washington Commanders, to the first NFC championship that they've seen in a very long time. He just had an unbelievable season. I mean, for somebody that started out at Arizona State, that possibly would have gotten drafted first overall to move into LSU, having a great couple of seasons and getting drafted. A lot of people had high expectations for him, and he ended up balling out with the team that he had. So kudos to him. I mean, that team, I think it's well deserved.
Yes, as much as I love Brock Bowers, it was Jaden Daniels the entire time. I mean, it was a historic run he had as a rookie quarterback. I mean, like there's 4 or 5. Like, there's barely any rookie quarterbacks who made it that deep. I mean, him and Mark Sanchez are the only 2 I can think of off the top of my head. So it's just like what he did was amazing, and also how dynamic he was as a player, right? Being able to run and throw the ball, and he also had a pretty poor O-line throughout it all too. Like let's not forget about that. So I think Jaden Daniels deserves it. He deserved all 50 votes. I don't know who saw Brock Bowers as a better recipient for this award, but yeah.
I think the only argument that somebody probably had with Brock Bowers was that he broke a lot of the rookie tight end records this year, and also had a lot of games where he had over 10 receptions, which is ridiculous when a lot of players only get, especially tight ends, only get 4 to 6 receptions if they're lucky per game. So having multiple 10 to 12 reception games for over 100 yards and multiple touchdowns is pretty impressive for a tight end. He's going to be a generational one, but I mean, despite even his success this year, he was always going to be overlooked. I think Bo Nix had a great year, but he was never going to get any votes compared to Jaden Daniels. You compare both rookie quarterbacks and you're always going to say Jaden Daniels was better because of the success he had this season. So like I said, I think next year, had it have been next year with a Bo Nix, Brock Bowers, et cetera, it might have been more of an argument, but not this year.
Yeah, I think this was Jay Daniels. I don't have any thoughts on this one. I do think the Hall of Fame class was kind of interesting, though. If you guys have time to talk about that real quick.
I'm just really excited about Antonio Gates making it as well. I think Antonio Gates is a great tight end story, playing as a basketball player in college and then being a walk-on to Hall of Fame tight end is pretty historic. I think that's really exciting. I don't really have as much favorite love for the other players. I know a lot of them are historic, and I'm glad that a lot of them did win it. But I think just for me, I always kind of knew about Antonio Gates growing up, and my dad always told me his story and stuff like that. So that was always fun. I'm kind of glad for him, but I'm sure you probably have more of a reach for some of the other guys.
I mean, so my thing here is, first of all of these guys are deserving. Eric Allen, insane defensive back for the Eagles. Jared Allen, insane defensive end. I remember him taking guys out. Antonio Gates, obviously, you just touched on that. He's probably the guy I remember watching the most. Sterling Sharp had a phenomenal career, but it was cut short due to some injury. He finally got in with his brother Shannon. So that's huge. I think this class should have been bigger, though. I think Luke Kuechly should have gotten in, first of all. I have no idea how he didn't get in. You let in Willis last year, which is fine. Willis deserves it. but Kuechly, in my opinion, deserves it even more than Willis. Reggie Wayne, I think, eventually should get in. Vinatieri should get in. He was first ballot. And then you've got other guys who still haven't, like, who've been trying for years. Willie Anderson. He should be in already, but he isn't yet. And I feel like you had an opportunity here where you've got like a smaller class and you're like, okay, well, now's the time where we can kind of fit in some of those guys who we've been trying to get in, but just haven't had the space in some of these bigger classes. And now we've got this smaller class. Let's plug in some of those guys. But they didn't do that. And next year,
next year it's a wrap, bro. You have Ben and Aaron Donald first ballot probably for both of them next year.
Aaron Donald isn't eligible
till next year, then, right?
No, you have to go 5 years.
Well, Ben is eligible in 2026.
I'm saying Aaron Donald's not eligible.
Okay, so then he would be next year, then 27 with Brady,
and then in 2027, Ben Roethlisberger and Cam Newton are eligible.
27.
Yeah, Drew Brees is first year eligible next year for the first time.
Okay.
So you have to go 5 years without playing. The main names that are eligible next year are Drew Brees, Larry Fitzgerald, Phillip Rivers, Frank Gore, and Jason Witten, along with Todd Gurley.
Todd Gurley's not making it, bro.
I don't think Todd Gurley's making it, but he's a big name. And honestly, I don't think Frank Gore will make it. I just think he's a stat guy. Drew Brees.
I don't even know if Phillip Rivers would make it, to be completely honest.
I don't
not
think
this year.
But Eli Manning, you got Eli Manning out there. You got Drew Brees still out there. You got like Luke Kuechly, Adam Vinatieri. You've got all these huge names that still aren't in. And now I just feel like this was a missed opportunity. I don't think Eli Manning should have been a first balloter, but I think Luke Kuechly should have been. I think Adam Vinatieri probably should have been. And we just had a missed opportunity here. I'm happy for the guys who did get in, but I wish this class had been bigger. Stan, anything?
I mean, nothing really to say. I am now that you're saying the names of guys coming up, that makes me very excited for the future to see how that plays out. Brady and Gronk in the future, near future as well, will be interesting to see. But yeah, there's a lot of names coming up, and I guess I just didn't really realize that. Kuechly and Vinatieri, as you said, definitely deserve to make it. I'd probably go Vinatieri over Kuechly, but yeah.
I think they should both make it. I don't think that there's any like Vinatieri over Kuechly over Vinatieri. I just think they should both make it because they played two different positions and they were the top guys at their positions. Hines Ward should probably make it eventually. He's not in. I don't know if Torrey Holt's in still.
I don't think so. I don't know if Hines Ward will ever make it. I mean, he's been in there for so many years and he just hasn't. I think he's deserving, but they're just not looking at him because I think there's always just somebody better than him every year. And that's the problem that they're having. I'd love for Hines Ward to make it. I mean, he was a huge part in a lot, and especially in our 05 Super Bowl, but I just don't know if he ever will.
Well, this year they had an opportunity and they missed it.
It kind of sucks how for a lot of really good players, like they miss their time and then they just roll around up until probably 2072 or something, where we'll see the Hines Ward introduction.
Yeah, and you'll be like, oh wow, and he'll be like, yeah, the 05 Super Bowl, that's crazy. He had a crazy year in 05. It's like, oh well, okay, yeah, and then like the grandkids and stuff like that will be like, how good was Hines Ward? And you'll be like, oh, I've got a story for you. Let me tell you about Hines Ward.
Well, yeah, I just wish the class would have been bigger. We are running out of time here. We've already gone over, but we do have a time limit we have to hit because Stan, the Jet fan, who so kindly joined us, does have a very important meeting to get to. So I want to wrap this up. If you guys have any final thoughts, though, feel free to share them right now.
Super excited for Kenny Pickett to hopefully win his first ring on Sunday. But I'm afraid that the only ring that I'm going to see is the ring going on to Taylor Swift's finger after the Chiefs win the Super Bowl and Travis Kelce and Andy Reid both retire. Absolute NFL cinema. That's all I have to say.
I'd be fine with Andy Reid retiring. Like if the Chiefs winning this Super Bowl leads to Andy Reid retiring, give it to him. Let him have it.
I'm just excited for the time after the Super Bowl. I want to get looking at draft prospects a bit more. I want to see the combine. Ooh. I want to see free agency. Like, there's so many exciting things coming up. It just kind of sucks that we're seeing the same Super Bowl that we've always expected throughout the season. So
I've got some draft videos recorded. I just don't like how they've turned out so far, so I keep recording them. And I'm probably being too much of a perfectionist, but yeah, I am excited for that time as well. So I'm going to go into my spiel here. Thank you guys both for joining us today. Thank you, Chus, for waking me up so that I could be here as well.
Right.
Thank you for listening to today's show. If you enjoyed, please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. We can be found anywhere you listen to podcasts and on YouTube at No Butts Show. Our social media pages are NoButts_show on Instagram. My Twitter is Josh_Butts_2001. And if you'd like to reach us, you can email us at bullmoosepodcast2. That's the number 2 at gmail.com. Finally, our spread shop will be in the description, so check out the merch. Once again, if you enjoyed today's show, like, comment, and subscribe. Until next time, go do something nice for someone.